Regional Managing Partner at KPMG.
Good. Well, thank you, David. Good morning. Is this on? Yeah. Good. I think most of you are familiar with our organization. We're a very large organization, a large office here. If you dial back, say, a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was concerned as I kind of looked at our organization that we had developed an entire generation of people who had lost the art of really building relationships and seeing those work. Demand had exceeded supply since basically 2003, so we were heads down delivering. So that was kind of on my mind, and I happened to meet David at a networking event for an economics club, and I was introduced to David. We started talking. I was very intrigued by what he had to say. I said, let's get together for breakfast, which we did. So we sat down, got together for breakfast. He started explaining a lot of what you see here, and it really started hitting home to me. I liked what he had to say. I wanted to hear more about it. But we went ahead and signed up, and we took about 20 students through a program. In addition to that, we had about a half dozen partners who audited it. And, you know, contrary to what you might say, I think a lot of our partners need this just as much as the managers do. But, you know, David did just an excellent job of engaging with the team, not only at the session, but the thing that David brought, I think, was really the follow-up. And if I look back at what we have done and where we're going, the differentiators in my mind, number one, process. Our people really like that. And he has some great little tools and enablers. They're simple things. How do you prepare for a meeting? How do you do effective research? You know, what are the things you're supposed to do? But it's very helpful to help people think through it. He talked about safety net. I never thought of it in that way, but I think that was really important for our people. Practicing. More importantly, I think just the follow-up. I mean, he was extremely diligent, as were our partner coaches. So we went through the follow-up for this 12-week period, and it really started getting ingrained. When you come up to these people and say, hey, Chet, hey, Tess, you know, hey, Pat, how are you doing in that relationship development stuff when you see them in the hallway? They realize that somebody's actually monitoring it, and it forces them to actually become active in it. So what has it done for us? Can I directly link it into new business? Maybe not directly, but what I do see is these individuals who have gone through this program are much more engaged and much more active. I think it makes them better delivery people. We tend to do everything as teams, so it's not an individual effort. But you see, these are the kind of people who would step up as a teams. They draw upon some of the experiences from the training as far as how do you prepare for meetings, how do you prepare to go deliver a presentation to a client. And I think that really makes a difference. You know, Dave and I have continued to talk about what are our next steps, and so he starts talking about the sort of licensing, train the trainer type of arrangement. That's something that's very intriguing to me and our organization as a way to leverage this going forward. So just a quick, I believe in what he says and what he's doing, and if you look at the stuff, it's some really good stuff. Okay?
Thank you, Bruce.
Morning, everybody. I'm Jeff Smith. I'm the CEO of Clarity Consulting. We're an IT consulting firm here in Chicago, a 60-person organization. And maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I felt like our organization was leveraged out. We have business development folks really along the lines of what David mentioned, the partners in the firm focused on developing new business. As I'm sure all of you are, we were interested in growing our business, looking for new business, and I was trying to come up with a way to grow business without making investments in new business development folks. And in our industry, we actually feel like we're satisfying a niche by staffing our teams with people that are primarily delivery focused versus business development focused. Our customers like that. They're appreciative of the fact that we're not there trying to sell them new business all the time. Looked around, talked to lots and lots of groups. IT is probably the prototype of, or at least people's perception is they're the prototype of a relationship averse person. So I had some very, very specific ideas of what this training would be like. I couldn't find it. Talked to lots and lots of people, and was just about ready to give up when somebody introduced me to David. And, like Bruce, had breakfast with him, talked about what I was interested in, what his philosophy was about training. I don't even think he called it training. He called it relationship expansion, very non-focused on sales, and I like that. I actually had to have, I think, 2 follow-up meetings with him with my partners because they didn't believe how closely aligned his training material was with our core culture of the business. It was a really, really good fit. We engaged him. We took about 10 or 15 people through. Since that time, I think all but maybe 5 or 6 of our staff has gone through that training over 3 or 4 sessions. A big piece of what we were interested in was trying to break down this division between the sales organization, our biz dev organization, and our development organization, which is We wanted this to be the ideal of developing new business to be something that was company-wide and not something that the delivery people would push off onto the salespeople and say, hey, not my job, their job. And again, a lot of the things that he talks about in the course help to break that down and make an organization, a services organization, think this is all about all of our job. We should all be thinking about this. And it's really, really prescriptive, like he said, for these delivery folks, at least in our group. They're looking for, how do I do this, a plan, not so much the touchy-feely stuff, but how to do this. And when David says he gives them things that they can put in their back pocket, I mean, he literally gives them a little piece of laminated paper that they can stick in their back pocket and pull out during meetings to take a look at some of these things. So for an organization like mine, IT organization where the folks are really black and white, big help. From a stickiness perspective or a results perspective, two things that I'd like to share. Really has changed our culture, made people feel like on the delivery side that this was something they could do, they could accomplish. I probably went from having 2 to 3 conversations a quarter with our more junior staff about what kinds of things they could do to grow out their relationships and develop their business to maybe 2 or 3 conversations a week. And that's a big move in my mind. Where our staff, kind of a funny project that some of them worked on, they used to work on games development in their spare time. One of the consultants who went through the training actually took the time to build a piece on their RSS feed aggregator to search for keywords that they thought aligned well with some of their client relationship folks, and thought that was a good way for them to keep up with the client, to pass along stories that they read through their RSS feed. So in my mind, for, again, an IT professional, that's a pretty big move. There was one gentleman who went through David's training, I think as part of the first batch. This is a big measurable result. His new booked revenue last year was probably up about 10 or 12%. And this is not a business development person. This is one of the delivery person. I think he went from being about probably number 10 or 15 in our organization in terms of revenue generated to probably 4 or 5. And he's going to be promoted to partner probably within the next month. And I think a large part of that is this is a person who was very much process-oriented and details-oriented. This was the thing, in my opinion, that kicked him over the line and made him feel like, yeah, I can do this. I have a background in IT development. This is something that I can do. So very happy, and we'll continue to look for ways to work with David. But a good success story for a very consulting next day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Doug Armstrong. I'm with West Monroe Partners. We're a 220-person business consulting firm here in Chicago and about 7 other offices. And we hired Dave, I think it was about 2 years ago, I guess. We actually looked at about 5 or 6 different sales training firms or relationship training firms, and we thought Dave's program was by far the most realistic for our technicians, our consultants, compared to some of the other programs. And we actually required all of our partners, our managing directors, as well as our business development group to participate in the sessions. I think we got most of them there supporting it and participating. We felt that was pretty important. And all the reasons why we did the training, very consistent with what was talked about here in terms of the pain points, the overall feedback from our consultants as well as our managers and our business developers and our directors was quite strong, very positive. I think the key to this, as well as any program, I'm sure we've all been through a lot of relationship training programs over our career, is how do you sustain this and keep this going? And we did several things, and still are doing several things related to the training and advancing it. As Dave mentioned, we brought it down to the senior consultant level, manager level. We make it fun. We do our own little sales survivor contests, but we don't vote anybody off the sales island, if you will. And we try to identify some of the higher performers, or people that really want to do it at a junior level. We set up coaching sessions with them in terms of knowledge transfer sessions. We do tips and techniques and everything from social networking tips to kind of revisiting some of the concepts that are taught throughout the relationship training program. We're currently looking for some sort of advanced training and kind of talking to Dave a little bit about that, how we kind of take it to that next level. Obviously you have a changing workforce too, so you have to build it into your orientation, and people that leave and that are replaced by other people, how do you kind of get them on the same program. You have to treat it as a program. And kind of related to that, we systematized it. We as a firm do not have a CRM adoption problem, or fortunately or unfortunately, we require use of our CRM system at all levels, and so we integrated the program and track activities and opportunities that are generated from the consultant level all the way up. We kind of put it into our career development program in terms of specifics that relate to what you do in a BD capacity at the senior consultant, manager level, director level, managing director level. As I mentioned, we set coaching networks up for both of our business development side as well as the partner side. Our business developers account for about 30-35% of our business. The rest comes from the line, and especially our farming activities, if you will, through the technicians. And then the final thing we're doing is we're integrating a performance management system and our KNET knowledge management system. So, as you mentioned, there's lots of great little enablers and forms that we've kind of activated off of our business development center of our portal, which is very widely used at all levels today. And I think if there's one or two things that we can point to, our consultants are just better prepared than they were previously, either for new accounts and helping us get ready to go in and introduce ourselves to a new client or prospect, or they are basically just better aware, more aware, and better prepared to help us pursue an opportunity and do all the research that you'd expect consultants to do. So, good program.
Thank you, Doug.
Good morning, everyone. I'm John Beneke, and I'm a managing director with True Partners Consulting here in Chicago. I've had an interesting perspective because I've been both a student and part of the leadership team at True Partners Consulting. Prior to joining True Partners Consulting, I was a senior manager with Deloitte Tax here in Chicago, and I was part of a select group of senior managers that were put through David's program, really from a Deloitte perspective as a pilot to see if it was going to be rolled out in a broader fashion to a much larger group within the Deloitte environment. So as a student, the program for me, I took a lot out of it. Problem was, it was really late in my career. I was already on the hook for doing a lot of the things that I was just learning about how to do them really well. I'd done them well enough to get me to the point where I was considered part of that select group. But it's interesting, if I would have looked back and stepped 5 years back in my career, 10 years back in my career, what would that have meant to me personally, and probably to the benefits I could have brought to the firm had I been armed with some of the simple tools that were available and been applying them on a regular basis. David talked a little bit about the kind of the aha moments for the people that go through the class. The two things I walked out, obviously DISC, you go through that process and you learn a lot about yourself, but also more importantly about the clients you serve. But for me, it was really all about the REAP form. I immediately after leaving the training kind of worked this into my daily routine on a client-by-client basis and set a personal goal for myself and all the teams I worked with to use this as kind of our client planning tool. And I measured it. David isn't even aware of this, but I looked at clients, what I did from a revenue generation standpoint on a month-by-month basis. And what I found out, where I applied this and where I felt I personally did it while working within my team, generally I doubled the revenue on each individual client experience, and in some cases tripled and quadrupled. I think just by being a little bit more disciplined around REAP. I wasn't working any harder, I was just working a little bit smarter, but also I was actually handing that out to every person on the team. And as a senior manager and now a partner with True Partners Consulting, I continue to use this. And what I tell my junior folks is that it's really your goal to look for additional opportunities and be disciplined about getting the right people involved. As a tax person, we're really good at wanting to get to the right answer, and what we're really bad at is getting other people involved when really that's what we should be looking for, additional opportunities. We kind of stay focused in our comfort zone. But by using this approach, the teams I work with have continued to look for additional opportunities. When I joined True Partners Consulting, the one thing I quickly realized, and many of you may not know this about True Partners Consulting, but we've been around a little over 3.5 years. And we were a startup firm. I joined, I was probably number 22 in the firm. Now we're 120 headquartered here in Chicago with 6 offices across the U.S. and 6 4 affiliate locations and an office in the UK. So we've grown tremendously over the last 3.5 years. Our starting point was 0. And what we needed to do immediately was get people engaged at very junior levels. Part of our selling point to people both on campus and the experienced folks we recruited was an entrepreneurial environment. It's a good idea to talk those words, but you really need to kind of empower people to really do that. So I reached out to David because the things he teaches were things we were going to need sooner than I got them as a senior manager with Deloitte. So we actually trained our new staff people and our newer manager group in hopes of just moving that needle 1 to 2%. The fact that we're here 3.5 years later in these economic times is probably indication that we've been able to do that well enough to continue to grow. In a tough economy, we're still up 15 to 20% this year, which is a great thing, I think, by most people's standards. And I'd like to think a large part is by utilizing this methodology. We've worked it into both our evaluation process, our development process. We've utilized the leadership dashboard. So all the tools that are out there, we try to use them as much as possible and continue to figure out how do we weave them into our overall management of the firm.
Great. Thank you, John. Thank you very much. Wow, I'm grateful for those very kind words. And I want to be mindful of time. We'll have a chance for some Q&A, and we'll be around here afterwards. But let me just kind of wrap up with what else we're doing to extend the runway of RX, okay? We have a program that we're in the process of developing. It's essentially called our Extended Aftercare. It goes beyond just the 12 weeks, okay? It extends the runway of the software, results engine software, to enable and support accountability of individuals being in action over a 1-year period, okay? In addition, we're in the process of developing, either partnering or developing our own RX content portal. It will be a place where you can go and get smart. It will be content aggregated across relationship topics, white papers, tips, stories, and other content. We will be the filter around that. We will also be developing some functionality to be able to push that out to people on a weekly basis, maybe in an e-newsletter of some kind. Again, just to keep it fresh, minimally invasive, okay? We'd love to build an online community, a place where birds of a feather, IT folks and auditors and tax consultants, sort of oblivious to who they